fantasy, sci-fi, thriller fiction, like magic, an invisible chain of sound once more circles the planet.
Varney, the vampire, or the feast of blood.
Written by Thomas Peckett Prest, or is it Prescott Prest, or James Malcolm Rymer? Anyway, it's narrated by Edward E. French. Chapter 21. The conference between the uncle and nephew and the alarm. Meanwhile, Charles Holland had taken his uncle by the arm and led him into a private room. "Dear uncle," he said, "be seated and I will explain everything without reserve."
Seated? Nonsense! I'll walk about, said the Admiral. Damn me, I've no patience to be seated, and very seldom had or have. Go on now, you young scamp.
Well, you abuse me, but I am quite sure, had you been in my situation, you would have acted precisely as I have done.
No, I shouldn't.
Well, but uncle...
Don't think to come over me by calling me uncle. Hark you, Charles, from this moment I won't be your uncle no more.
Very well, sir.
It ain't very well, and how dare you buccaneer, call me sir, eh? I say, how dare you?
I will call you anything you like.
But I won't be called anything I like. You might as well call me at once Morgan the Pirate, for he was called anything he liked. Hello, sir. How dare you laugh at, eh? I'll teach you to laugh at me. I wish I had you on board ship, that's all. You young rascal, I'd soon teach you to laugh at your superior officer, I would.
Oh, uncle, I did not laugh at you.
What did you laugh at, then?
At the joke.
Joke? Damn me, there was no joke at all.
Oh, very good.
And it ain't very good.
Charles knew very well that this sort of humor, in which was the old Admiral, would soon pass away, and then he would listen to him comfortably enough, so he would not allow the least exhibition of petulance or mere impatience to escape himself, but contented himself by waiting until the evolution of feeling fairly worked itself out.
Well, at length said the old man, you've dragged me here into a very small and very dull room under pretense of having something to tell me, and I have heard nothing yet.
Then I will now tell you, said Charles. I fell in love with Flora Bannerworth abroad. She is not only the most beautiful of created beings, but her mind is of the highest order of intelligence, honor, candor, and all amiable feelings. Really, uncle, if you say bah to everything, I cannot go on.
And what the deuce difference, sir, does it make to you whether I say bah or not?
Well, I love her. She came to England, and as I could not exist but was getting ill, and should no doubt have died if I had not done so, I came to England.
But damn, I want to know about the mermaid.
The vampire, you mean, sir?
Well, the vampire.
Then, uncle, all I can tell you is that it is supposed a vampire came one night and inflicted a wound upon Flora's neck with his teeth, and that he is still endeavoring to renew his horrible existence from the young, pure blood that flows through her veins.
The devil he is.
Yes, I am bewildered, I must confess, by the mass of circumstances that have combined to give the affair a horrible truthfulness. Poor Flora is much injured in health and spirits, and when I came home she at once implored me to give her up and think of her no more, for she could not think of allowing me to unite my fate with hers under such circumstances.
She did.
Such were her words, uncle. She implored me, she used that word, implore, to fly from her, to leave her to her fate, to endeavor to find happiness with someone else.
Well?
But I saw her heart was breaking.
What of that?
Much of that, uncle. I told her that when I deserted her in the hour of misfortune, that I hoped heaven would desert me. I told her that if her happiness was wrecked, to cling yet to me, and that with what power and what strength God had given me, I would stand between her and all ill.
And what then?
She fell upon my breast and wept and blessed me. Could I desert her? Could I say to her, my dear girl, when you were full of health and beauty, I loved you, but now that sadness is at your heart, I leave you? Could I tell her that, uncle, and yet call myself a man?
No!
Roared the old Admiral in a voice that made the room echo again.
And I tell you what, if you had done so, damn you, you puppy, I'd have braced you, and and married a girl myself. I would, but I would.
Dear uncle.
Don't dear me, sir. Talk of deserting a girl when the signal of distress in the shape of a tear is in her eye.
But
You are a wretch, a confounded lubbery boy, a swab, and a bad grampus.
You mistake, uncle.
No, I don't. God bless you, Charles, you shall have her. If a whole ship's crew of vampires said no, you shall have her. Let me see her. Just let me see her.
The Admiral gave his lips a vigorous wipe of his sleeve, and Charles said hastily, My dear uncle, you will recollect that Miss Bannerworth is quite a young lady.
I suppose she is.
Well then, for God's sake, don't attempt to kiss her.
Not kiss her? Damn, they like it. Not kiss her because she's a young lady? Damn. Do you think I'd kiss a corporal of Marines?
No, uncle, but you know that young ladies are very delicate.
And ain't I delicate? Shiver my timbers, ain't I delicate? Where is she? That's what I want to know.
Then you approve of what I have done?
You're a young scamp. But you've got some of the old Admiral's family blood in you, so don't take any credit for acting like an honest man. You couldn't help it.
But if I had not so acted, said Charles with a smile, what would have become of the family blood then?
What's that to you? I would have disowned you because that very thing would have convinced me you were an imposter and did not belong to the family at all.
Well, that would have been one way of getting over the difficulty.
No difficulty at all. The man who deserts the good ship that carries him through the waves, or the girl that trusts her heart to him, ought to be chopped up into meat for wild monkeys.
Well, I think so too.
Of course you do.
Why, of course?
Because it's so damned reasonable that being a nephew of mine, you can't possibly help it.
Bravo, uncle. I had no idea you were so argumentative.
Hadn't you, Spoonie? You'd be an ornament to the gunroom, you would. But where's the young lady who is so infernal delicate? Where is she, I say?
I will fetch her, uncle.
Do. I'll be bound now she's one of the right build, a good figurehead, and don't make too much sternway.
Well, whatever you do. Now don't pay her any compliments, for your efforts in that line are of such a very doubtful order that I shall dread to hear you.
You be off and mind your own business. I haven't been at sea 40 years without picking up some out-and-out delicate compliments to say to a young lady.
But do you really imagine now that the deck of a man of war is a nice place to pick up courtly compliments in?
Of course I do. There you hear the best of language. Damn it! You don't know what you're talking about, you fellas that have stuck on shore all your lives. It's we seamen who learn life.
Well. Hark!
What's that?
A cry! Did you not hear a cry?
A signal of distress, by God!
In their efforts to leave the room, the uncle and nephew for about a minute actually blocked up the doorway, but the superior bulk of the Admiral prevailed, and after nearly squeezing poor Charles flat, he got out first. But this did not avail him, for he knew not where to go. Now the second scream which Flora had uttered when the vampire had clasped her waist came upon their ears, and, as they were outside the room, it acted well as a guide in which direction to come. Charles fancied correctly enough at once that it proceeded from the room which was called Flora's own room, and thitherward accordingly he dashed at tremendous speed. Henry, however, happened to be nearer at hand, and, moreover, he did not hesitate a moment, because he knew that Flora was in her own room. So he reached it first, and Charles saw him rush in a few moments before he could reach the room. The difference of time, however, was very slight, and Henry had only just raised Flora from the floor as Charles appeared.
God in heaven! Cried the latter. What has happened? I know not, said Henry. As God is my judge, I know not. Flora, speak to us! Flora!
She has fainted, cried Charles. Some water may restore her.
Oh, Henry, is not this horrible?
Courage, said Henry, although his voice betrayed what a terrible state of anxiety he was himself in. You will find water in that decanter, Charles. Here is my mother, too.
Another visit! God help us!
Mrs. Bannerworth sat down on the edge of the sofa which was in the room, and could only wring her hands and weep.
Avast!
cried the Admiral, making his appearance.
Where's the enemy, lads?
Uncle, said Charles. Uncle, the vampire has been here again.
The dreadful vampire! Damn me, and he's gone too, and Carried half the window with him. Look there!
It was literally true. The window, which was a long latticed one, was smashed through. "Help! Oh, help!" said Flora, as the water that was dashed in her face began to restore her. "You're safe!" cried Henry. "You are safe!" "Flora," said Charles, "you know my voice, dear Flora. Look up and you will see there are none here but those who love you." Flora opened her eyes timidly as she said, "Has it gone?" "Yes, yes, dear," said Charles. "Look around you. Here are none but true friends."
"And tried friends, my dear," said Admiral Bell, "excepting me. And whenever you like to try me afloat or ashore, damn me, show me old Nick himself, and I won't shrink. Yard arm and yard arm, grapnel to grapnel, pitchpots and grenades."
"This is my uncle, Flora," said Charles. "I thank you, sir," said Flora faintly.
"All right," whispered the Admiral to Charles. "What a figurehead, to be sure. Paul at Swansea would have made just about 4 of her, but she wasn't so delicate, damn me."
"I should think not."
"You are right for once in a way, Charlie."
"What was it that alarmed you?" said Charles tenderly, as he now took one of Flora's hands in his. "Varney. Varney the vampire!"
"Varney!" exclaimed Henry. "Varney? Here?"
"Yes, he came in at that door, and when I screamed, I suppose, for I hardly was conscious, he darted out through the window."
"This," said Henry,
"is beyond all human patience. By heaven, I cannot and will not endure it."
"It shall be my quarrel," said Charles. "I shall go at once and defy him. He shall meet me."
"Oh, no, no, no," said Flora, as she clung convulsively to Charles. "No, no. There is a better way." "What way?" "The place has become full of terrors. Let us leave it. Let him, as he wishes, have it." "Let him have it?" "Yes, yes. God knows, if it purchase an immunity from these visits, we may well be overjoyed. Remember that we have ample reason to believe him more than human. Why should you allow yourselves to risk a personal encounter with such a man who might be glad to kill you that he might have an opportunity of replenishing his own hideous existence from your best heart's blood?" The young men looked aghast. "Besides," added Flora, "you cannot tell what dreadful powers of mischief he may have, against which human courage might be of no avail."
"There is truth and reason," said Mr. Marchdale, stepping forward, "in what Flora says." "Only let me come across him, that's all," said Admiral Bell. "I'll soon find out what he is. I suppose he's some long slab of a lubber after all, ain't he, with no strength?"
"His strength is immense," said Marchdale. "I tried to seize him, and I fell beneath his arm as if I had been struck by the hammer of a cyclops."
"A what?"
cried the Admiral. "A cyclops."
"Damn me, I served aboard the Cyclops 11 years and never saw a very big hammer aboard her."
"What on earth is to be done?" said Henry.
"Oh, there's always a bother about what's to be done on Earth. Now at sea, I could soon tell you what was to be done."
"We must hold a solemn consultation over the matter," said Henry. "You are safe now, Flora." "Oh, be ruled by me. Give up the hall." "You tremble." "I do tremble, brother, for what may yet ensue. I implore you to give up the hall. It is but a terror to us now. Give it up. I have no more to do with it. Let us make terms with Sir Francis Varney. Remember, we dare not kill him."
"He ought to be smothered," said the Admiral.
"It is true," remarked Henry. "We dare not, even holding all these terrible suspicions we do, take his life." "By foul means, certainly not," said Charles, "were he 10 times a vampire. I cannot, however, believe that he is so invulnerable as he is represented." "No one represents him here," said Marchdale. "I speak, sir, because I saw you glance at me. I only know that, having made 2 unsuccessful attempts to seize him, he eluded me, once by leaving in my grasp a piece of his coat, and the next time he struck me down, and I feel yet the effects of the terrific blow." "You hear?" said Flora. "Yes, I hear," said Charles. "For some reason," said Marchdale, in a tone of emotion, "what I say seems to fall always badly upon Mr. Holland's ear. I know not why, but if it will give him any satisfaction, I will leave Bannerworth Hall tonight." "Oh, no, no, no," said Henry.
For the love of heaven, do not let us quarrel."
"Hear, hear!" cried the Admiral. "We can never fight the enemy well if the ship's crew are on bad terms. Come now, you Charles. This appears to be an honest, gentlemanly fellow. Give him your hand."
"If Mr. Charles Holland," said Marchdale, "knows aught to my prejudice in any way, however slight, I here beg of him to declare it at once, and openly." "I cannot assert that I do," said Charles.
"Then what the deuce do you make yourself so disagreeable for, eh?" cried the Admiral.
"One cannot help one's impression and feelings," said Charles. "But I am willing to take Mr. Marchdale's hand." "And I yours, young sir," said Marchdale, "in all sincerity of spirit and with good will towards you. I don't like you, but I don't know positively any harm of you."
"There now, that's better, eh?"
"Now let us hold counsel about this Varney," said Henry. "Come to the parlor, all of you, and we will endeavor to come to some decided arrangement." "Do not weep, mother," said Flora. "All may yet be well. We will leave this place." "We will consider that question, Flora," said Henry. "And believe me, your wishes will go a long way with all of us, as you may well suppose they always would." They left Mrs. Bannerworth with Flora and proceeded to the small oaken parlor in which were the elaborate and beautiful carvings which have been before mentioned. Henry's countenance perhaps wore the most determined expression of all. He appeared now as if he had thoroughly made up his mind to do something which should have a decided tendency to put a stop to the terrible scenes which were now day by day taking place under that roof. Charles Holland looked serious and thoughtful, as if he were revolving some course of action in his mind concerning which he was not quite clear. Mr. Marchdale was more sad and depressed, to all appearance, than any of them. As for the Admiral, he was evidently in a state of amazement, and knew not what to think. He was anxious to do something, and yet what that was to be he had not the most remote idea, any more than as if he was not at all cognizant of any of those circumstances, every one of which was so completely out of the line of his former life and experience. George had gone to call on Mr. Chillingworth, so he was not present at this first part of the serious council of war. Varney the Vampire, or The Feast of Blood, a romance of exciting interest, is copyright 2023 by Edward E. French. All rights reserved. A copyright exists on all recordings issued by Edward E. French. Inquiries should be addressed to email edwardfrench06@hotmail.com. Good night.